Let me tell you a story. A Batman story. There is a new villain in town called Dr. Phosphorus. He wants revenge against Gotham and he threatens to kill everyone in the city. When Alfred and Commissioner Gordon become suddenly ill, Batman investigates the case and discovers that Phosphorus has poisoned Gotham's water supply. Batman goes to the water reservoir and confronts Dr. Phosphorus, a man whose body glows with radiation, leaving his skeleton exposed to the naked eye. Batman tries to stop this madman, but he can't, as Phosphorus can burn everything he touches. Although his victory is certain, the villain spares Batman just so he can eliminate him later. But wait, who is this Dr. Phosphorus and why does he hate Gotham? Well, his real name is Alexander Sartorius, and he was part of a club of high society criminals. Using their resources, he tried to create a nuclear power plant in Gotham, but the city authorities wouldn't let him build it, and so he was forced to build it outside of the city. One day, while working at the plant, a nuclear reactor exploded and he was coated with radioactive silicon, which turned his body into phosphorus. Turned into this monster, he blames Gotham City for the accident and for his gruesome transformation. But Phosphorus knows that Batman stands in his way, and in order to get rid of him, Dr. Phosphorus blackmails the city council and threatens to kill them if they don't deal with the vigilante. Because Commissioner Gordon is still out of action as a result of the poisoned water, the authorities manage to make Batman a public enemy, forcing the Dark Knight to work outside of the law. After doing some research in the second Batcave, Batman learns about the nuclear power plant outside of Gotham. Batman deduces that this must be Dr. Phosphorus' hideout, and after an initial inspection, he decides to return later. In order to stay close to the nuclear plant, Bruce Wayne organizes a party in his private yacht, and he invites all of Gotham's high society. Among the guests there are two very important people, the president of the city council, Rupert Thorne, and the lovely socialite, Silver St. Cloud. In the middle of the party, Bruce sneaks away and goes to the power plant as Batman, where he fights Dr. Phosphorus using a special suit to prevent burning. However, Phosphorus dies by his own hand when he falls into the nuclear reactor during the fight. And so, Bruce returns to the party where Silver was looking for him. They realize that they are attracted to each other, but Silver also notices how strange it was Bruce's disappearance. With Dr. Phosphorus out of the way, Batman investigates Rupert Thorne and learns that he is in fact a corrupt businessman who is responsible for manipulating the system to make Batman a public enemy. Meanwhile, in his alter ego, Bruce Wayne starts dating Silver, but because the radioactive injuries from his fight with Dr. Phosphorus are not getting any better, Bruce decides to seek professional help. Like this, Bruce goes to a medical center, unaware that it is a trap for wealthy men, and once inside, he is drugged and locked inside a cell as a prisoner for 2 days. When Silver tries to visit him, she is forbidden to see him, but lucky for Bruce, the people who captured him conveniently forgot to take away his suitcase. But how could they have known that there was a secret compartment with a batsuit inside? Using this little trick, Batman escapes from his prison and goes looking for the criminals responsible. On his way there, Batman is confronted by a couple of men as big as monsters, but after a brief struggle he defeats them. Finally, Batman gets to the main room of the medical center, where he confronts the criminal mastermind, Dr. Todd Hunter. Knowing that his plans have been exposed, the fake doctor reveals his true identity as Professor Hugo Strange. Batman and Hugo Strange fight and the mad scientist is almost defeated. However, Batman is bitten by a snake and then he is drugged with the antidote, which keeps him unconscious, allowing Strange to remove Batman's cowl and learn his secret identity. With this information, Strange disguises himself as Bruce Wayne and takes control of Wayne Enterprises in order to steal all the fortune, while the real Bruce Wayne is trapped in his fake hospital. Everything seems to work well for Strange, except for Silver, who immediately notices that Bruce is not the same ever since he went to the hospital, and so he calls Dick Grayson for help. Of course, Dick refuses to help right away, but that is just a front, because he goes immediately back to Gotham as Robin. With the information given by Silver, Robin finds that Bruce and Alfred had been captured and locked away in a cell protected by some of Strange's monster men. Robin finds a way to stop the villains and rescues Alfred and Bruce. Meanwhile, Strange has decided to sell the secret identity of Batman to the underworld of Gotham, and 3 villains show up to the auction. All 3 provide Strange with money, but Strange tricks the criminals and after the initial bid, he tells them that the auction would continue the next day. As Strange is leaving the building, he is stopped by Rupert Thorne, who was one of the criminals in the auction, and Strange is captured and taken to a torture chamber to make him reveal Batman's secret identity. Much to everyone's surprise, Strange is determined to keep the secret to himself, telling Thorne that the Batman's identity can only be taken from Batman himself, just as he did. This strange loyalty costs Hugo his life. Or that is what it seems. Rupert Thorne tells his men to kill Strange, but after they dispose of the body in the river, Thorne starts having hallucinations with the ghost of Hugo Strange. In the meantime, the Penguin, who was the second villain that wanted to buy the secret of Batman's identity, feels frustrated that Hugo Strange has disappeared and starts a series of crimes, only to be stopped by Batman and Robin. As this happens, the third villain, whose identity is still a secret, starts his next big plan. Rupert Thorne, on the other hand, is still having troubles with the ghost of Hugo Strange, as the spirit keeps haunting him, and Bruce Wayne is having his own troubles with Silver, who seems to know more about Bruce than everyone thinks. And on top of that, an old enemy of Batman returns when Floyd Lawton makes a strong comeback as the new and improved Deadshot. Batman and Deadshot end up fighting on top of a giant typewriter and Batman comes up victorious, except for the fact that Silver watched the whole fight and she finally deduced that Batman is Bruce Wayne. After that encounter, Bruce suspects that Silver knows the truth, but when he visits her as Batman, she lies to him and tells him that she knows nothing about him. Convinced that Silver doesn't know the truth, Batman continues his work when he is suddenly called to the docks, where some fishermen have found something horrible. All of the fish they have captured have the face of the Joker in them. And so the plan of the third villain is revealed, as the Joker intends to trademark his Joker fish, but since the law doesn't allow natural resources to be trademarked, Joker starts killing public servants using his trademark Joker venom until they surrender to his demands. After Joker announces his first victim, Commissioner Gordon and Batman try to stop the killing from happening, but Joker manages to unleash his gas into the place, killing his first victim. Meanwhile, Rupert Thorne is once again scared by the ghost of Hugo Strange and he decides to leave Gotham. While driving his car away from the city, he comes across Silver St. Cloud in the middle of the road, as she was also leaving the city, but her car had broken. Silver tells Thorne that she can't stay in Gotham anymore because she knows a secret that is way too important. As they keep talking, Thorne learns that Silver supports Batman and his activities, and so he kicks her out of his car and continues driving away all alone. It is then that the final apparition of Hugo Strange attacks Thorne and scares him beyond control. Thorne is found hours later by the police and he confesses all of his crimes, clearing Batman's name in the public eye. As this happens, Silver is once again alone on the road and returns to Gotham as he has no other choice. Meanwhile, Batman and Commissioner Gordon try to stop the Joker from killing his second victim, but once again they fail as the victim's cat is infected with Joker venom after biting a Joker fish. The cat then attacks his master and Joker claims his second victim. When the Joker tries to claim a third victim, however, Batman is finally able to stop him. The two of them start fighting on the rooftops of some building until they reach a construction site. The night is rainy and lightning strikes directly at the beam where the Joker is standing, causing him to fall to the river. The whole fight was witnessed by Silver, who had just arrived to Gotham. Batman descends and takes a closer look at the river, searching for the Joker's body but without success. Silver walks to him and breaks up with Batman, revealing that she knows the truth and telling him that she cannot bear the thought of losing him to one of the many dangers of Gotham City. With one last kiss, they part ways and Batman returns to the shadows just as the sun rises. This storyline was developed in Detective Comics in 1977, and it's notable for being the first storyline in the Batman comics that lasted for 8 issues. Prior to this storyline, the most chapters of any Batman story were 4 issues. Now, let me tell you why I love this story. Steve Englehart crafted such a good story in the sense that it is an epic saga that develops in almost different chapters, but all of them connected to each other. There is no space for breaks and the whole story reads seamlessly from start to finish. There's action, there's mystery, there's romance, and all combined make for a thrilling story like no other prior to this moment. And besides all that, there is also the art. The first 2 chapters were drawn by the legendary Walter Simonson, who made Dr. Phosphorus look really scary, as opposed to old villains that look something similar. After Simonson left the story, the art was done by Marshall Rogers, who I consider to be one of the best Batman artists ever. Back then, people thought that only Neil Adams could make Batman with long ears and look very slim and athletic, but Marshall Rogers showed everyone that he could do that and more. Not only Batman's design was impressive, the way he drew panels and scenes, the angles, the perspectives, the backgrounds, the characters, everything was perfect, including Batman. Not only on his design but also as a character. The balance between Bruce Wayne and Batman is just about right, and the determination shown by the Dark Knight gives us a clue that Steve Englehart really understands the Batman. This Batman is as much Dark Knight as he is a dark detective, and I certainly believe that this is one of the most definitive versions of Batman. Robin was also greatly done as he was portrayed as a young adult instead of a teen. There is just one little complaint I have though, and that is about the first villain. I never like when characters are disposed or killed without strong reasons. Although in this case it's fine because Dr. Phosphorus was killed by his own creators, it still eliminates potential for future stories with the character. In any case, Dr. Phosphorus was not entirely compelling as a villain. The scientific origin story was fine for the Silver Age, but in the Bronze Age the radiation origin just doesn't sound right, because most of us know science doesn't work that way. There were also the crimes by Dr. Phosphorus. Poisoning the water supply is such a cliché for comic book villains that it doesn't feel original anymore. Dr. Phosphorus was okay. His awesome design compensates for the weak character development. Rupert Thorne, on the other hand, was such a well-developed character. He is the first Batman villain that actually feels like a real-life villain. Thorne is a corrupt businessman who is in a position of power in the public office, and that is something just so true to real life. I really wish they had used more of him in the comics. But the greatest new character was Silver St. Cloud. I may be biased in this one because I consider Silver to be the best love interest for Batman ever. And the reason for that is because of how different Silver is from all the other girls. She is not a damsel in distress like Julie Madison or Linda Page from the Golden Age. She is not annoying and obnoxious like Vicky Vale or Batwoman from the Silver Age. And she is not an enemy like Catwoman and Talia. Silver earned Bruce Wayne's love for how smart and strong she was. Even when they first met, Silver knew there was something more to Bruce Wayne than the playboy persona. She was the only one who realized something was wrong when Hugo Strange impersonated Bruce, and it really wasn't long before she learned the truth about Batman by herself. But even then, she decided to stay out of Bruce's life, because of how much she cares for Bruce and his mission as Batman, showing that she is perhaps the only woman who really understands and loves him, both as Bruce Wayne and Batman. And she has silver hair! I just can't tell you how much I love this character. What I can tell you is about the Golden Age characters that returned in this storyline, Hugo Strange and Deadshot. The last time Hugo Strange appeared was in the Golden Age when he was apparently killed. We have that story in the Golden Bat series, so check it out. Now, Strange returns after 37 years and Steve Englehart modernizes the character, bringing new life to the old concept of the mad scientist from the Golden Age. And the same thing happens to Deadshot. His first and last appearance was in the break between the Golden and Silver Ages almost 27 years prior to this moment. And we also have that story in The Gap. Back then, Deadshot was kinda silly because he wore a tuxedo, a domino mask and a couple of pistols. Now, he returns in the Bronze Age and everything about him has been modernized. His special outfit, his automatic guns and his new attitude are all the elements that redefine the character for the new generations. The return of Hugo Strange and Deadshot is evidence of how much Steve Englehart loves comics and respects the source material. So much so that during the fight between Deadshot and Batman, he included a giant typewriter as a nod to the legendary Batman creators Bill Finger and Dick Sprang, who used to include giant props in the Batman stories during the Golden and Silver Ages. There are also several locations and people named after notable Batman creators of the past, like the Gotham Sprang Memorial Arena named after Dick Sprang, a friend of Bruce Wayne called Jerry Robinson, named after the legendary Golden Age artist, a business contact of Bruce Wayne called Broom, named after the Silver Age writer John Broom, the Fox Gardens restaurant, named after the Golden and Silver Age writer Gardner Fox, as well as the Wiesinger offices and Ellsworth building, both named after Golden and Silver Age editors Mort Wiesinger and Whitney Ellsworth. This is the storyline that popularized putting people's names to places in comic books. And heck, even the cover of Detective Comics 473 has similarities with the cover of Batman's first appearance in Detective Comics number 27. But perhaps the most important reference is the Finger Alley, which was the back street of the Wayne Foundation building, named after Bill Finger. What's great about this street is that it worked as a secret entrance to the second Batcave, and that is another great development of this storyline. Ever since the Bronze Age started, the Batcave and Wayne Manor were abandoned, but Steve Englehart wanted to have the whole thing back, and so he came up with the second Batcave, built in the basement of the Wayne Foundation building and with several replicas of the trophies, Batcomputer and even a replica of the Wayne Manor living room. It's the little details like these that makes this story wonderful. And finally, there's the last two chapters of this story, The Laughing Fish and The Sign of the Joker. Both are considered among the finest Joker stories ever told, and there is a reason for that. When Joker was first reintroduced in the Bronze Age, he was made dark, realistic and insane. That worked perfectly because it used elements from Joker's first appearances. And so, Steve Englehart did the same and used the Joker venom, and Joker announced his crimes, just like he did in his first appearances. The way the Joker was written and illustrated was simply magnificent, and a tremendous way to end an epic storyline. In fact, this storyline is so impressive that many elements were adapted years later in Batman the Animated Series. The plan by Hugo Strange to sell the identity of Batman and the Laughing Fish were both elements adapted in the series on different episodes. The only bad thing about this is how Steve Englehart moved away from comics after finishing this story, and many things were left unfinished. We didn't learn what happened to Rupert Thorne and the ghost of Hugo Strange, at least not in this story. As a result, the aftermath of the story was developed by none other than the master storyteller Len Wein, and that is exactly what we are gonna talk about in the next episode of The Bronze Bat. If you've made it this far, chances are you liked the video, so why not subscribe? That way you won't miss the upcoming videos in the complete comic book history of Batman, and if you're already subscribed, then make sure to come back for the next episode. Until then, Godspeed, my friends.